You almost forgot my name.
Good.
Very good.
Thank
Very
you.
Good. Very good, Maeve.
Hello, hello.
Hi. What's going on?
Hello, everyone. What's going on with you? You got like 5 things on the board here.
Well, I got 5, well, I got a larger one, right? And then 4 5x7s. And then this little piece of this scrap that I made and played with. And then coated with resin.
Hello, everybody waving.
So I've just started figuring out what I want to do with some of these. You kind of...
Yeah, this is like a solid.
This is just a solid sheet of the graphite that I got wet and put on really thick. And I want to try to carve into it with an eraser.
Wait.
And you can see it's actually more matte than these. These are more glossy. And these are have been polished. This I haven't polished because it'll push all the graphite off. And I want to leave it there because I want to try to carve some bits of figure stuff out of it that'll be really light. And I want like a kind of a low-key black and white photograph.
Yeah.
And then when I spray it with a gloss, this stuff will all go super matte, and the places where I carved it out will go very glossy like this did. And then I can work back into that a little bit, and then resin over it, and it should look more like that
Hold on.
when I'm done.
Wait, we're going too fast. You guys can ask any questions if you want. I will try to answer them all.
So, this was the first little piece that I did that I put resin on top of, and you can see it's super glossy.
Ooh.
Really unified
Yes.
the surface well. It'll never come off. This is the most archival piece I've probably ever done. And at the same time, right now, I'm trying to figure out what details I want to pick, because I started with a little bit of a different kind of texture on this instead of the line.
Okay, hold on.
Like,
so there's the solid one.
this is just brushed on graphite with water.
What is this one up here?
Also brushed on, but I let it striate more, and I erased back into it a bit, and then I used some sponges to lift it off.
Wait a minute. Magic Spell 54 asks, how long do you do that? Does he do what? How long does he do? What does he play with the graphite? And
well, it depends. Like I'll search for a pattern or a shape with the graphite powder. It can be really fast, from a few minutes on a single piece up to like 2 or 3 days. It depends on what comes out and how quickly. Or if I already have a plan I want to start with. If I have a plan I want to start with, sometimes that's faster, sometimes not.
right.
But so this one and this one and this one were done with brushes and sponges and then lifted off of. This was done the same way, but I wiped most of it off and then went back with just a sponge and basically did a kind of a
Spattering technique.
yeah, I patted it with a sponge until I got a granulated texture.
How do you prevent it from getting too flat when it dries and ruining the pattern? Ooh, you can't.
Okay, so a lot of that does happen. So when this initially was laid down, all the light areas here that you see, which you can still see, they're really pretty dark gray right now. These were very light, and then when I burnished it out, they darkened. So I have to go back and with an eraser, an abrasive eraser as well, like this, and I have to go back and pick out whatever details I want to remain light. And that's the benefit of the ampersand clay-board, is it'll take some seriously abusive erasing.
All right, and Justin asked, what brand and type of resin did you decide on?
Oh, this resin is this is the art resin that they use for varnishing artwork. I use that because I have a lot of friends that use that. I also bought some stuff to make some molds because I'm going to incorporate some relief sculpting onto some of the pieces that I want to do. So I ended up getting the Smooth On for that. Mm-hmm. I think it's the Platinum Smooth On silicone mold stuff that we got. But I listen to music all the time and movies. A lot of times I'll listen to audiobooks quite a bit as well. It depends on what phase of it. If I'm really trying hard to conceive of something in the concept art phase, it's usually pretty quiet because I don't want anything interfering with my thoughts. But when I'm in the middle of, say, rendering something, pulling it out, that usually takes a lot of time, and I just want to zone out and let my subconscious and my hand pick out the details that I want to pick up in that respect, and then render, and just basically let the process take over. And then that's when I'll watch something like, I've been watching every B-rated horror movie I can find. I've seen some seriously bad horror movies. It's like I'm to a point now where I'm about to jump back onto audiobooks because they last so long.
Yeah. You are welcome, Justin. Someone else asked if you still will. I found
I
something.
do. I do. I made.
We're in the pile of stuff over here.
I made basically a steel wool pencil. I just wrapped it around a piece of metal, and this is duct tape, and I use it to do a spot reduction removal. I also have some the bigger pieces as well that I'll use. I usually use a glove with it. It hasn't hurt my hands, but I'm sure this stuff can itch if it gets around too much. But because it does granulate, it fractures when you use it.
Yes, if you missed the beginning, the video will be archived. I will put it I'll save it. I'll have it in the stories for 24 hours, and then I also I'll upload it to our YouTube channel, which is Alan Williams Studio, and then I will also upload it to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Alan Williams. You could always see it there also.
Yeah. Another thing I want to mention about Patreon, and we're just starting this. We'll mention it again before the end of the video. I'm going to start once a month.
We have to work out the time. We have to work out that.
Roughly, I'm going to start giving away an original on my Patreon, like roughly about one of the like this size. It might be once a month. We haven't worked it out yet. So we'll see, but that's one of the things I'm going to be doing soon. Just because I like to give as much as I can, along with the videos and answering questions on Patreon. I like to give away stuff to you, or at least I want to.
Yes.
If Vicky lets me.
He did not work on the Netflix film Ritual. No.
No. I liked it though. I did like the creature. I thought the creature was interesting. The amalgam of I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen it, but the way it was constructed, I thought was actually pretty cool. It surprised me. But no, I wish I had. That would have been fun. So. But anyway, right now what I'm doing is playing with this kind of granulated.
Yeah, because you don't have
texture.
an idea of that one yet, right?
I in the back of my head, I kind of do, and I'm trying to see if it'll actually go that direction.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't speak of it too much, lest I frighten it away. Because it's like I just want to play with it until whatever. Like I can see like actual solid shapes starting to form out of it, and in the end I'll start to direct it if it gets to a point where it actually looks like it's going to be cohesive. And other times when I do this process, I'll start with an idea, and then that is fun in its own respect. It's just a little less exploratory. I don't sit and play with it as much. I start off with like a couple of basic shapes that I want, and then try to build back and forth into that. So, and you can get pretty controlled with it. I mean, what? Oh,
you're not supposed to show that one.
Well, you showed it last time. But anyway, so you can get pretty controlled with it if you want. This is just dust from erasers, but I mean you can.
No, and that one doesn't have any resin on it or anything, right?
No, this has just got a clear varnish on it, basically. But I mean, like you can control it as much or as little as you want to. It's also got some thumbprints in it, but that's okay. I like getting my hands dirty. So I had someone equate it to making mud pies recently.
Yes.
Painting or finger painting, So, and I have done some of this with my fingers too, but I like spending time playing with all these details and stuff, and it starts to look like bones and fossilized bones protruding out of stone, at least in this one. This has a slightly more smaller scale textural pattern than some of the others do. So, and I do this quite a bit, where I'll find the striations and follow them, and this is all done with eraser and just adding back, with the graphite. And I found that the Caran d'Ache 6B leads for these 5.3 millimeter pencils is the one that sticks to this board the best in this process.
Yeah. And then
even better than the 10B Hi-Unis. But
Brianna was asking how the clear varnishes interact with the loose graphite. There's no loose graphite anymore.
No. Usually by the time I get to the point where I varnish it with like the resin, it had already been spray fixed. with a clear coat.
Right. You do
Right.
spray it with a workable fixative, though, right?
No,
Not always.
No. Usually I don't use a workable fixative. Like this is just a clear coat that's sprayed on. If you were to do it with a brush, it would mess it up.
Right.
So this is a Krylon acrylic clear coat gloss varnish, and I spray it on. It sits on the surface, and it doesn't move the graphite at all. You know, and it's it's.
At some point, you use a workable fixative, though.
I did when I did all this on paper. Now, if you use workable fixative, it sometimes doesn't quite go back to being as glossy, you know, at the end. It works. I've done it. I used workable fixative on that piece I just finished the other day. The one that with the skull fragments in it.
Oh.
The one that's got resin on it now.
Right.
But it changed the surface of the board a bit, in a way. So.
Yeah, and yes, we will be coming to Monsterpalooza. Yes, we have a larger space at Monsterpalooza this year.
Yep. So.
And I should be able to tell you our booth number, but I don't remember it.
We'll post it on IG. So. But Monsterpalooza is one of my favorite shows. So I don't know. Can you see it? Can you see the detail? Like all the stuff that's going on in here?
I like the swoop right over here.
Yeah.
Right
so depends on the piece. Like if at some point this might suggest itself as the side of a neck, like the other one, and then that would mean might be a head shape in here somewhere to find. You know, this is one of the most fun ways to work, is when I don't start with a plan and just sort of fumble my way through it. But usually art directors don't like that so much because you don't have something to send them. Mm-hmm. So I work both ways. There's just definitely there's a formal process where I can start with a formal idea and build from that, or I can work this way. And when I'm doing stuff for myself, I like to fall in and get lost.
Right.
Yeah.
The medium is the powdered graphite is on ampersand clay board.
Yeah, and the graphite I use is probably at this point, because I've mixed them, a combination of the General's powdered graphite and the Caran d'Ache powdered graphite. I suppose you could use the stuff that comes out of these lead pointers as well, but it'll be less regular. Than it might have bigger chunks when the lead breaks off, so you have to be careful with that.
Well, you might like that, though.
Oh, it's true. It could cause some randomness, you know.
Are you putting that hand on the pencil piece up there?
Which what? What are you talking about?
That one right there?
No. Oh, this is what more formal. I guess more formal graphite looks like when I just sit down to draw. So I can start with a loose sketch, and then start working back into picking out. I do things pretty much the reverse of everybody else. I'll find details and build off of details, whereas most people tell you to find shapes and then worry about details later. I sort of do a juggling act from beginning to the end. But I trust myself because I've done it enough that I know I can find what I need to find. So, you can do it any way you want to. There's literally an infinite number of ways to work through all this stuff. And you just have to find the way that suits you. But I have no idea.
Rachel asked how you went about using the medium. There's a long video on YouTube. Go to our Alan Williams studio on YouTube, and you can watch last week's, and it shows him painting the powdered graphite on.
So some of my sketches look like that.
So, yeah.
And some of them look like this,
See, he has a plan.
So,
and the one on the left, but the one on the left will probably not look at all like that.
This one, because it's so loose, will change quite a bit. Obviously this is not going to change because I started off and kind of just fell into the pattern and let it go. But this is just a broad idea that I'll let evolve as I work on it.
So if you want to see him painting or sponging on the powdered graphite and everything that long, it's like a 25-minute video.
It's a 25-minute
and it's
video.
another one of these question and answer, so you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
And that one turned into, where's the finished product of that one? Oh, where is it? Over there?
That's the one that has, I'll get it. It's got the other, here, you can stay here. I'll get it.
Oh, I get to stay here.
It's got resin on it as well.
Oh, I shouldn't sit in your chair.
It'll slide away. All right.
It will slide away.
So the one that I was working on in the last video ended up turning into this. And it's a little dusty right now, but and this is also a combination of this graphite. Then it was spray fixed, and then I touched little bits and pieces with black oil, and then I varnished. After that dried, I laid a varnish over it, so now it's got an incredible gloss to it.
Resin, varnish, yeah.
I like working like in the two extremes of either being completely glossy or completely matte, and when I want something to be matte, I'll airbrush like a Liquitex Ultra Matte Medium on top of the graphite, and it dulls all the sheen out, and then it's really super flat. We'll get around to doing a video of that too at some point.
There's one up on YouTube of that, I think.
Is there one? Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
But anyway, so this was the one that I started last Saturday night in the demo that we did on Instagram. So.
The other live feed.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see me in the shine. Don't do that.
Oh, you can see me too. Super glossy.
It is super glossy. Yeah, it is Beksinski looks-ish.
Yeah, Beksinski's I would have adopted Beksinski like in retrospect as a father if I could. I love his work.
Do you get a difference in sheen between the powder and the pencil? Oh yeah.
Depends on how with the varnish it sort of unifies the surface.
Right.
But yeah, you can see like if I held this up a little bit, you can see.
Oh yeah,
you can definitely see where I've touched it with those little spots where it's shiny is where I've used a pencil, so it actually polishes the graphite. When I get done with it, whatever I do to the surface will unify it, and it'll either become completely shiny or completely matte, depending on which direction I want to go with it.
Right.
So.
And another question: do you have any advice on finding an artistic style to work with? Ooh,
Oh,
boy.
I actually have my best. That was a big deal with me too.
Don't feel bad because they say I've had problems with keeping consistency through school and personal projects. That's okay.
That's fine. I mean, the thing is that you'll be inconsistent until you find that one thing that sort of feels like this is what you've always wanted to do, and it doesn't ever really happen in a lightning bolt moment. Like it's not like a movie moment. You know, for me, it was when I started noticing what I collected in terms of art that I paid attention to. And I started asking myself, why do I like this? And what is it about this that I like? And isn't that what I want to bring into my own work? So that's why you'll see a lot of organic growth in the work that I do, because I saw Beksinski's work, and his work is full of organic exploration. And also Geiger, which is they're both very much in this, and Barlow, Wayne Barlow, who is also one of those guys that does a lot of organic growth. And I also relate it to like some of the
sculptors,
the Waterhouse technique, where he also has a lot of on close examination. Waterhouse paints very organically. You know what I mean? It's very, it's not polished. It's very loose, which I like to go from very loose to very tight, and that's something that I struggled with early on, was trying to be too tight with everything, and so this is a way for me to loosen up by using these. The water and the graphite.
Completely uncontrollable things.
Yeah, well, it is, and this is a very difficult technique to manage to push in the right direction. But in terms of finding your own style, I was the opposite of what they normally tell you. They normally say just work, do as much work as you can, and eventually it'll come to you. With me, it was more like I've been doing all this work.
And it was all over stylistically.
You walk into my booth, and it would look like 5 different artists were in my booth. And then one day I sat down and I said, I need to find the thing that I like that is me more than them. And so I tried to figure out what is it that I want to do that's different than what other people want to do. And part of that was noticing what I liked in people's work, little bits and pieces here and there. And then I got to a point where I saw these things in my head that I couldn't find an artist to refer to for. And part of that was not being knowledgeable about all the artists that are out there at the time, but also part of that is that I had something going on in my head that was more me than other people, and so it was an active rather than a passive search for me.
Right.
So.
Right. Thank you. Someone asked if there are other kinds of canvas I can use instead of clay-board, medium. Any other kinds of board you could use besides medium? Or besides clapboard?
Besides clapboard, you can do it on gesso if you gesso the board and then sand it down pretty smooth.
Oh, yeah, because
gesso's a little more absorbent, so it's a little harder to lift up. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. I've done it on gesso as well. Mm-hmm. It just takes a little more effort to bring it to carve out the whites. Yeah.
Right.
It doesn't work as well on porous paper because the graphite soaks in, and then it like becomes very difficult to move.
Hey, Dominic.
On some, like I think Fabriano hot press paper, you can actually lift it up quite a bit, as long as it hasn't been scrubbed in and isn't too wet when you lay it down.
But it doesn't feel like the clay board, though.
No, it's not. Actually, it's much more difficult on paper to lift it up. But gesso's serviceable. You
the
can
gesso
do it
board.
with gesso board,
especially if you sand it.
Yeah, this is my typical posture when I'm working.
It's a horrible posture.
And then I'll wonder why my neck hurts, and then I'll have to sit up and do this.
Did you go to school for art?
Like
I don't have to do anything. All I have to do is read people's questions.
Briefly.
You had briefly went to school.
I went to school for a couple of years, and then I started doing illustration. And my teachers said that I was working in the field that I wanted to work in, and nobody was asking me about a degree. And they said, you should just go work in the field. That's more of an education than what you're going to get here in the directions that we're going to push you.
You were also in a fine art school.
I never, if I had to do it over.
Keep drawing.
If I had to do it over, I would.
They want to see you draw.
I would probably go to an actual art, like an atelier or something.
It looks like a skull.
And I intended that to look like a skull. I found it earlier. So,
I thought I was finding something new.
Well, no, you can see where I drew around it.
Oh.
But no, that's the part of it that's fun, though. So.
What kind of clay did you use to make the circular piece? That was paper clay.
Yeah.
In the last video, it was paper clay.
So it's paper clay, but with a layer of gesso on top. And paper clay is made of paper, so the gesso kind of soaked into it and hardened it so that it smoothed out really well. And hold on, let me grab that, just so you can see what I'm talking about.
Let's see if I can look at the skull. See the little skull? See, now I can get really close because you've moved. See all the little stuff in there that you're going to pull out? I love that part right there, too.
So that's the paper clay that I basically pressed into a circular kind of a mold. And then as it dried, I also layered on a layer of gesso so that I could sand it back to getting a pretty smooth surface. So it actually did something a little different. It actually has a semi-gloss surface compared to the other. This is not as shiny, but it also let me play a little more. It was a little more responsive that way.
Oh yeah, so that well.
And that also incorporates a little bit of oil.
Yeah, in the darkest places.
In the darkest places is oil.
Oops, I left a hair.
That's right.
All right, I'll stick him over there.
Yeah.
Someone asked if you take vitamins or supplements to create. No.
Well,
no, we're boring.
Vitamin D.
Coffee.
Yeah. I drink a lot of coffee. That helps. And I work at night, so. And as you can see, if you look over here, I've got an iPad with Pinterest up 24 hours a day. So this is one of my boards where I have inspiration. This is just random stuff that I love. So, and I'll sit here and scroll past this, and I just like looking and seeing what everybody else is doing. Even if I'm not doing it, or even if I see something and I'll go, I'm not capable of doing that, I still love to see it, you know? All the expressions, I mean, everything.
No, I'm the one that drinks the wine. He doesn't drink wine.
No. If I drink wine, I'll just go to sleep. I'm
shaky tonight.
Right. So, even though I'm finding a lot of patterns and a lot of shapes and things in here, I guarantee that some of them will be destroyed when I find an actual unified piece in the thing, because some things won't work. Like, if this ends up being a profile, there are things about it that may not work that I've already done. But that doesn't matter. At least, you know, it's still there, and even if I erase it, it still has an impact in the piece. You know, it's like
right.
just like when I have in the past done contract work that had to be done digitally, I don't typically work that way, the way that most people do digitally either. I tend to work in layers and just flatten them as I go. And I end up like I don't like undelete quite very much. I just paint it out like you would in a regular painting. So like it's not much faster for me to do digital work.
Oh my God, no. Well, sometimes it's faster for you to do digital.
It depends. If it's like if somebody wants color, I have to do that. I mean, I do that because I don't
paint color.
I know, but they usuly want it in 3 days, and I like oil.
And yeah, that doesn't work.
So I do it digitally. But,
see, you can hear us arguing. Have you noticed the humidity affecting your pieces?
You know what? There are times when it does. I noticed it a lot with paper that one day I would lay down a value in a gradation that would seem smoother than the next day when I tried it, and the difference was in the level of humidity and the width of the paper fibers. I know that sounds insanely OCD, but
it is, but that's okay.
But that's the way it is. Just like if you come back to a drawing the next day and it seems a little rougher than it did when you put it down, it's probably because your light changed and the tooth of the paper looks different depending on which direction the light hits it.
Yeah,
so,
he has these two lights, which I have to turn one off because see if I turn this one on, everything
goes yellow.
Turns like no,
it's not so bad. So I have,
not too bad.
But I have studio lights as well that are balanced.
Got the big studio light. And we've got the dirty ceiling fan. We won't look at you. And the sculpting mess. Or worried as the resin.
Did you say Dom was on there a minute ago?
Yes, and Stephanie was on here too.
Oh, that's Dom's piece over there that's standing on the desk. But yeah, I mean, and even with this stuff, sometimes you'll notice that like graphite falls off the board after, it depends on how much it's been adhered and whether or not it's been spray fixed, but it has a tendency to fall off. And if I want to soften things, these are those Mr. Clean Magic Erasers. You can use them dry, and they'll just lightly, you can do like a really super light, see how it starts to take off a little? Mm-hmm. So if you really wanted to do a huge piece,
the pattern is right there.
Yeah, you can still see the pattern. You can reveal that and change the contrast. But these things are great. I think Rebecca Gay was the one that turned me on to these things. Yeah.
Stephanie turned you on to the resin.
Yep. So right now I'm like having fun just working in a microcosm until I get ready to. I actually want to do a figurative, like a more representative figurative piece on this darker stuff. But I'm not quite ready yet, so I'm just getting rid of my OCD, which is the noodly part of my compulsion, is to sit here and just fall into this stuff. And so I'll do this for a while, and then later tonight I'll probably start working on a more representational figure in one of the other pieces. So, and I go two different directions. I like doing the darker kind of ambiguous, almost creature type stuff, but I also like doing the more higher fantasy, figurative, I guess you could, for lack of a better word, beautiful type stuff as well. I go back and forth. There's different kinds of beauty, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So the paper clay isn't actually used, isn't it for sculpture mostly?
It is for sculpture mostly. Most of the time people use it to make dolls.
Yes. Because someone asked if the paper clay should stay small. He's using it for something that...
I've tried to make larger pieces of paper clay. It's difficult to make it into a sheet. I haven't figured that out yet, but I think it's there to be tried. So if you can manage to work it into a big usable sheet, why not give it a shot and see?
Yeah. And Anne asked if did it give you more control than the clay board?
This I had a lot more. I had a lot more fine-tuned control in terms of intention, whereas clayboard is more of gives you more of the randomness that you want to work into a piece. This I actually sat down and was able to push it in definite directions a little bit easier because the surface was more like paper than the clayboard, but it was still a surface that responded to the erasers the same way as the clayboard did. So it's just, and you can see it's a little warped and everything, but I don't really care. It looks. I like the way it ended up. I like the shape of the circle and the way it ended up.
Doing more to it after, because I did post it like last month. I was like,
yeah,
going to put it on Everyday Original.
The big thing that I would encourage anybody to do is, get whatever you want to draw on and just experiment like crazy.
Yeah, and then I do have to say people will email or message and ask how to finish something off and everything, and our first thing is do it on a small throwaway piece.
Yeah, always test.
Always test anything
right.
that he does, because what you do might be a little different than what he does.
Right, and it depends on if you get something that's a little different, in terms of the spray acrylic or whatever. You just need to test it before you do it on anything significant.
Right.
I still do a lot of experimentation and stuff I throw away.
Right. These are on Clayboard, and this will be archived on the YouTube under Stories first here, and then on YouTube and on our Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be a public post on Patreon, so anyone can see it there.
And at least this month anyway, I'm going to be giving away one of my 5x7 pieces, whatever one of these that I produce on Patreon as well.
Are you getting insanely clean strips of light-valued graphite against the dark areas? It looks like marble.
Well, that was probably part of it was the process of lifting the graphite off. But again, I use these abrasive erasers, which are. Oh, this is just it's a piece of sandpaper I use to make a point on the eraser.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not going to do it on this one, but you can go back in.
Yeah,
and pull it out.
The highlights are all just the white of the board.
Yeah.
And because it's against that dark, it glows.
And if you can do that as subtly as you want, if you approach the eraser on the surface with as much finesse as you would a pencil on a white surface, you can get the same kind of gradations in reverse, from white to black instead of from black to white. You just have to make sure you approach it calmly and slowly, and you can build it up. That's essentially what I did with any of this.
Get a good shot, huh?
And all of the whites and the gradations are done with an eraser, and then you work back and forth, and you can brush a little bit of graphite on if it needs to go.
Whereas, unlike sometimes with paper, you can't, if you're using powder graphite, you can't get back to that white.
It's really difficult once you get past a certain point.
Right.
That's why I started using the Clayboard, was because if I wanted to, I could make a circle in this that is pure white, like the white of the board white, like it would glow off the board.
Well, what's the one piece that you use Maeve's face in?
That's the one that went to the show, the Icon show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the triangular one.
Yeah. I don't. It's on our thing.
Oh,
it's posted on our Instagram feed.
Yes. All of that glow is just the white of the board.
Mm-hmm. So.
See, I keep trying to set up the GoPro behind him and just...
GoPro doesn't show enough detail to make it worth looking at, I don't think.
That's what he says. I think people will still want to be able to see a time.
Well, you could see the back of my head in that image.
On the side. What's the make of that pencil? What is that pencil?
This is a Crayon Dash. It's a fixed pencil, 3.
Oh, Crayon Dash.
Yeah, this is a 3.2 millimeter. I also have the 2 millimeter ones. This is a fixed pencil 77. And then I use also
the big cone,
the big one.
The fat one.
This one is a Hardmouth, and this is a Crayon Dash lead as well, 5.3 millimeter.
Yeah, someone asked what kind of leads you like.
And if I really want, this is a Lyra 9B.
Bah.
So it's bigger than the piece practically. I usually use Mitsubishi Hayoni lead, except for the 3.2 millimeter is Crayon Dash lead.
So the different leads you like are Crayon Dash,
Mitsubishi Hayoni, are for leads for pencils like these anyway. And then the Lyra for the big one. The Lyra 9B is a very, very dense black lead. And then I also use a 10B Mitsubishi Hayoni. This is like painting, though. It's so buttery. It's so soft. So.
Sand erasers. Clarence said he uses sand erasers.
Sand erasers.
I find it makes very fast work of removing graphite. I wonder if that's like your abrasive eraser.
I don't know. These are the hard erasers that.
What is that? A Faber-Castell?
This is So.
Where is it? Perfection
7058. The ones that work really well.
Yes, you can buy those online.
Ones that work really well.
Unless he buys them all before, because he'll go and buy 3 boxes of them at a time.
Right. Well, this is an antique. These are the ones that are like
They
you
don't
get on
make anymore.
eBay. They don't make these anymore, but these you can find online, and they're like, I don't know, anywhere from $5 to $7 a piece. They're not cheap, but and then obviously kneaded erasers for gentle, and then the sponge for very soft value changes. So.
Kuratoga is a nice one as well. Nice eraser. Uh-oh.
Kuratoga?
Yeah, do you know that?
I don't know I'm familiar with the term Kuratoga. I think
I have to...
Let's see. I also have the Sakura electric eraser. And let's see what else.
And the magnifying glass. Is that a reduction glass?
This is a reduction lens.
Oh, of course.
So it doesn't magnify; it makes smaller.
Because you need to make it smaller. You're welcome. I'm glad you like the videos. I'm wrangling and more to get more videos out of them, like these.
There's a Tombow the soft white erasers, which work pretty well too. They're 2mm mono zeros. I have to look. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm familiar with sand erasers. Is there a brand associated with it?
The sand eraser? I'd have to see who... let's see. Mechanical pencil, really smooth lead. I think the Kuratoga. Now you're going to have to look at that.
I will.
Don't suggest to him more things.
Is it the one that has the lead that turns, that spins as you use it? Is that the Kuratoga, the one that has the lead that turns as you draw with it?
We'll have to...
I think so.
Kaiser Terror will have to answer that question for us. Yeah. Have you ever used chalk pastels before?
Chalk pastels? No, not really. Not that I wouldn't. It's just that I kind of have limited myself to the just value with
graphite.
With graphite, you know, I haven't really even gotten into the charcoal, which will go probably a lot darker than this, you know, to a matte black. But I have charcoal powder. I just haven't brought it out yet.
We have so much stuff. Don't give him more ideas.
No, I like to experiment though.
I know, Stephanie and her. Look at all this resin. Now we have all the resin stuff.
Well, that's something I've been wanting to do though, because I want to incorporate some low relief sculpting into the drawing.
I know. I'm just joking.
I mean, it looks like low relief sculpting anyway, doesn't it? I mean, I could.
It does.
So.
Yeah. Do you glaze a finished piece? Well, this one is got resin on it.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, it turned orange. See that one? He put resin on it. If he didn't put the resin on it, he'll use as a Krylon clear coat.
Yeah, it's just a very gloss acrylic varnish, basically. But it's better to spray it on rather than brush it on, unless you're going to use a fixative before you do that. And then it'll pretty much solidify everything. I think when I started putting clear coat on everything, I feel like all of a sudden that, like, even if people don't want them, the pieces will be around 100 years from now.
See, I think I answered someone's question incorrectly then, because they asked after the powdered graphite and you're done with the pencils, you're not using the workable fixative?
No, not usually. I don't use workable fixative on it because
then let's go back and apologize.
Yeah, if I'm going to make it matte, if I'm going to kill all the gloss, then I might use workable fixative before that. But if I want it to be glossy at the end, then and magnify the reflection of it, I don't want to put a matte fixative on it.
Okay. So I was wrong.
That's okay.
I'll go back and fix that. He said he doesn't think it spins as you draw. It's a Japanese company, very well balanced. The lead is nice for layering graphite. And Stephanie, of course, says more art materials. She does. She enables.
She is correct.
She is an enabler. Someone sees a hyena. Whenever I fix a drawing, it messes with the values. How do you avoid or work with that? He works with it, actually.
I actually more or less allow it to happen and work on it from that point on.
You have to know it's going to do that.
If I were to spray fix this with gloss, it would make everything darker and richer. If I were to spray fix it with a matte, it would make everything a little bit lighter. So it just depends on whether, knowing what I'm going to do beforehand and what it's going to, like, I know that, like, this is going to go darker when it becomes gloss. But I know that it'll look good because I've done it enough that I go, okay, these areas are going to actually go much darker once the the spray.
So
the
if you were to work with this one right here,
this one would go. I would erase
These
back into it
dark
quite
pieces.
a bit, but the dark would go much darker, just like this did. This one went much darker once I put the gloss on it. So everything in it darkened a bit. So I just know that it's going to happen, and don't let it shock me out of enjoying the final product, I guess. So if I'm working on paper that has a tooth like this, I tend to want
Use
it to
a
go matte.
Yeah.
So that the gloss is diminished. And
Actually, we just started making them shiny about not quite a year ago.
Yeah,
Is when we started using the clear.
Yeah. When I do things when I do a drawing and I make it completely matte, it has a look like it was like printed on the paper. It's hard.
Yeah.
I had to actually sign an affidavit for someone who bought an original that said an affidavit. Is that right? I had to sign a certification for someone to prove to them that it was an original piece because they thought it was a print.
It's ampersand clayboard. That's what he's working on.
Yeah.
Have you ever used Liquitex textured mediums?
I haven't, except for I've used for making a surface. I've used modeling paste, Liquitex modeling paste.
Okay. Well, robotic art. Do you not use kneaded erasers because the pencil erasers are more pinpoint? No, he's got lots of kneaded erasers.
I use them because I like the broad, soft eraser. It just depends on what I need at the point I'm at. You know?
Oh, wait. Hold on. Hold on. Wait. I found it. Look at the giant kneaded erasers. He has lots of kneaded erasers everywhere. Sorry.
I use everything because everything has a slightly different function.
Ooh. Clarence said the sand eraser is a Tombow Mono Sand Eraser 512A.
Okay,
Wow.
I'll check it out. I will definitely check it out.
So he uses kneaded erasers all the time. I'm sorry. I ran away with everybody.
That's all right.
He's working on ampersand clayboard.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little ragged on the edge because he cut one up.
Oh, this?
Because I said, no, you're not allowed to do an 11 by 14. You need to do a 5 by 7.
It's going to be framed, so it'll come in like an eighth of an inch.
Yeah.
And so it'll go past that anyway. But I'll probably end up painting a little strip of black around it just to make it look nice.
Yes, he has. Does he use? I'm sorry. He has used black oils in some place on the Lonely Man up there.
Yeah,
and on that guy.
This has black. This is oil. This is all. Right. This is oil here.
That's just what oil you use.
This is actually I used the Fast Matte, the alkyd oil that dries very quickly.
Yes,
so
is that the black is black?
Huh?
That isn't the black is black.
No, that's the Michael Harding black.
Oh, okay.
But this is all oil here. The little lines that you see are dark or oil. You can also go back into it with like a black color pencil at this point because it still has a textured surface.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does.
But I'm actually that's okay.
Sorry.
I'm actually going to put this in a circular frame and then seal the whole thing with resin. Stephanie knows what I'm talking about. She's the master at it. But,
yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, you can definitely make the mediums work together as long as you unify the surface at the end.
Yeah. Your oil paint is more of a glazing method. I would say yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very thin.
I do sometimes do just straight up oil painting too. But this is just what I'm into right now. So
let's see. Fixing also blotches the graphite together and can ruin softness or gradients. Maybe because it's paper and not the clayboard. Oh yeah.
That might be. Yeah, I can see that. And also, I don't know. It depends, I guess, a lot on.
When I spray fix it for you and everything, I am at least like 12 to 18 inches away from a piece, and I do it in kind of in little swoops, so it's like barely getting on there, and I'll do it over and over again.
Yeah.
And let it dry in between, so I don't get really close, and there's nothing.
It's not like saturation. It's just like crop dusting it just lightly,
right?
And then letting it dry, and then coming back and doing it again.
Crop dusting is a workable fixative, yes. So try to do it lighter if you can do it. It's going to change the values though, but it. Do you go in with oils after fixing the graphite with something specific? A specific oil?
Well, I've usually I'll go into oils after I put on the clear coat, so it actually is I'm oiling on top of a very smooth surface, but I'm doing it very thin. It's like I don't paint like I don't paint so thick and opaque at all. It's more of like just a like a glaze. So it actually adheres well because I'm painting. So if I painted thickly on a smooth surface, it would probably crack and fall off. But I paint so thinly, it usually isn't an issue. And to be honest, it's funny, I paint so thin, and I use alkyd-based paints that usually they're dry within an hour or two. That's how thin I'm painting.
Yes.
You know?
People are, thank you for answering the questions.
Oh, no problem. That's why we're here.
Yes. And which workable fixative? We have a bunch of different kinds.
The one that I've been using the most is, in terms of the gloss, is the Krylon Clear Coat.
No, workable fixative.
Or workable fixative? I don't have a distinction. I've used pretty much all the workable fixatives that I've used.
The one that I'm out there is like, I don't even know how old it is.
Yeah.
I found it in my drawers out in the frame, in the garage for framing.
We'll look up the one that we have, and
Yes.
I'll post it on Instagram.
Okay. But the other workable, what was your workable fixative you were?
I don't have any in here. I don't have. It's all outside.
Yeah.
So unless there's some in that cabinet over there.
Well, I won't take them to the cabinet. I'm sure they don't want to see that. So back there behind him is we'll wrap it up here in about 2 minutes or so, you guys. That's the digital, where he works digitally.
Oh, that? Yeah. That's, I have a Cintiq, and I do when I do digital color or whatever for a contract, I do most of it on that. I'll start with a drawing usually, but end up digitally painting. Just because of time constraints. I'd prefer to do everything in oil, but I don't usually have the time to do that.
Do they know what this is?
It's a pencil sharpener.
If your pencils don't get sharp enough, just because.
So it's curved, so you can just kind of glide over the edge.
And he spins.
And you can get a point, you get a sharp point with it.
Oh.
Depending on how smooth, how much you want to finesse it. This is just like the 1000 grit sandpaper. Yeah.
Do you ever do collaborative pieces? You were supposed to do a collaborative piece.
Yeah, I have in the past.
Way past.
Right. So this is the one I seem to be working on, but like I said, I'm going to do a figurative piece on one of these 2 dark boards. And it's for my Everyday Original thing, which comes up on the 23rd of this month.
Yes, so, 23rd, which is next Friday. I'll be in Jackson on a field trip, so you've got to get it to me a couple days early.
I know, I'll do it before then.
One of these 5 pieces, one of these 4 pieces you see here will be the Everyday Original. Yeah. Let's see which one. You guys can guess next Saturday.
And like I said, I will be giving one away through Patreon as well.
Okay. Do you sand the clayboard beforehand? I can't seem the graphite to get I can't seem to get graphite pencils to stick to it well. You need a softer pencil, right? Softer lead.
I use a super soft lead, and the surface, I guess, does change on a microscopic level once you've worked back into it a lot. But I just kind of labor over it and tickle it until it does what I want. Yeah. So when I said that it's not an easy technique, that's kind of one of the things I'm referring to. If you just draw straight on the clayboard, it's like drawing on like that Yupo paper, which just like seems to bite the lead.
Oh, Yupo?
Yeah, Yupo, and it seems to just bite the lead, and it like everything looks dark on it. So you have to like super just stick with it until you get what you want. Oh, Stephanie, I don't know. Whenever you want to.
You're supposed to do a collaboration piece with Stephanie.
I know. I'll do anything you want, anytime you want, Stephanie.
He is not doing IMC again, no.
Not this year anyway. I love IMC. It's just this year I've got a lot of other shows that we're digging into. Yeah.
How do you decide your composition? And someone asked how do you get your textures in your piece? That's just your weird obsessive compulsive
right.
stuff, right?
Well, you can hand make texture, or you can use a technique to bring texture into the piece itself. And in terms of composition, if I want a formal composition, then I do a formal pencil. I'll do like a normal like drawing, right? If I want formal composition. Right?
And texture with it.
So, and I could actually take this and reproduce it on clayboard. It would have a different effect, but I could still do it because I've learned how to kind of coerce the clayboard into a general direction. So I do it that way when I want a composition. When I want to just play, I do it the way that you see me doing it here, which is just digging into the texture and seeing what happens. Which Stephanie does too, by the way, since she said something about a collaboration. She just does it with watercolor.
She does.
So actually, she works very similar to the way that I do, with great control in watercolor.
And color.
Yeah, and color.
Sorry, I'm poking.
Well, you know what I said. Color's a crutch.
Color is not a crutch. I'm going to make you paint.
I know. I'm just
He
kidding.
is going to be working on color. He's going to be painting here soon.
I had a teacher once that said, if it doesn't work in black and white, it won't work in color. And I was like, well, I'll just stick with the black and white then.
Stop. Is that a Bristol pad? What is that, Strathmore?
This is Strathmore.
Yeah, Strathmore.
Yeah.
We have every paper, believe me.
Yeah, so I like working on Stonehenge and Stillman and Burns Zeta series paper.
Those are your favorites.
It's like,
Stillman Burns.
yeah, Stillman and Burns is great because it's smooth and you can do you can brush on dry graphite and then erase into it, and it works really well. So
All right, we went a long time tonight.
we did.
I have to go put Maeve. She started. If you watch the beginning of the video, Maeve started the video.
So we're gonna try to do this like on the weekend, as much as we can.
We could try a weekday. Maybe more people would be because. Maybe,
No, I like these people.
I know, but I guess other people are probably out having fun on Saturday night.
These are the dedicated ones. I'm kidding.
I'm
Everybody.
talking about us.
Yeah.
Not us and not
Oh,
having
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
What do you do Saturday?
This. What do you do Sunday? This.
Tuesday?
This. Yeah. So. And then I built a robot with my daughter last night.
Oh, that's true. We built I have to post that video on them. We built a robot. The only tin can we had was
A Bud Light.
Bud Light can. Our Patreon. Yes, I'm sorry. Patreon.com. It's just Alan Williams.
Right.
Even if you just follow, you can follow and see some of the public posts and everything. We're also, the YouTube channel is Alan Williams Studio.
You don't sound sure of yourself.
Oh, jeez. I did this last week, too. Damn. Weekends would work great for them.
Oh, good.
No, we're the ones who love to draw on Saturday night. Oh, he's right.
See?
So how do we find you? At YouTube, Alan Williams Studio.
Yep.
Or Art, but I swear to God it's Studio. It's me not. I should always have the answers. And it will probably be Saturdays, so.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? Oh, the question. What are your thoughts on water-soluble graphite?
Wait,
this is great controversy.
Yeah, no, I don't
No,
have
it's not
any issue with it. I tend not to use the graphite the regular graphite that I use seems to be water soluble enough for me.
He just sticks water in it.
It's just regular graphite powder, and water is generally water soluble. So the water soluble graphite, I'm wondering if it's not more of a gray watercolor that they've added graphite to. I'm not sure. It seems to not.
Have you not tried it?
I have some.
Oh, that's right. You do have some.
I do have some. I just it seems to move more than I want it to, though. This actually will move fairly well when it's wet, but it doesn't move as much when you just touch it. I don't know. I don't have any problems with it. I just don't. I've just not played with it as much.
Yeah. No, there's no controversy. I always say that to him.
She likes creating strife.
Only within the two of us. That's all. Between us. Tell me what you feel about water soluble graphite. He's like, I put water in it. It's water soluble. It's fine.
It dissolves in water. It's fine.
It's fine.
So, but I know other people have used it to great effect, though. So I mean, if it feels right to you, that's what I say. You just got to pick the thing that feels like it responds to your nature more than the other.
You started messing around with this and you liked it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And the fact that it makes me fight sometimes for what I want out of it, I don't mind that. I tell people that every single piece I do on the ampersand clayboard ends in an agreement to disagree. So I don't usually get it to do everything I want, but I get close enough that I'm like, okay, well I'll
Then sometimes
I
it suggests stuff.
It does, quite a bit more often than anything else I've worked on. And to be honest, recently I've gotten to a point where I feel like I can actually push it in terms of the control as well.
Yeah.
So I actually did a landscape, a piece that has a little bit of landscape in it recently.
Let's show just the landscape.
All right, I'll just show the landscape portion of it.
Wait.
Okay. No, watch. Okay. That's the landscape portion that I did. So I was able to pull in some control, and this is on ampersand clayboard as well. So
it's very cool. It's a cool piece.
She won't let me show it because I'm going to do a larger painting based on it, and she wants to reveal it all at once because Vicky is a showman.
Sometimes I know what I'm doing.
That's true.
The powdered graphite you're using is the Cretacolor and the
it's probably
Generals.
a mixture. Like I said, it's a mixture at this point between Cretacolor and General because I don't separate them. I just keep dumping them all into the same pot.
Yeah, he sticks them in a box, and so because he's one of those kind of people that don't finish the milk jug. There's 1 1/8 of milk in there, or get rid of the. He won't just use something up, but there's just more.
Well, no, I just grab. I've got them in a drawer, and so I grab one, and I sometimes grab one or the other,
yes.
and I just dump it all in the same thing.
Yeah. He's working on ampersand clayboard. Mm-hmm. Okay, since it is almost 10, and I should put our 9-year-old to bed, since it's 2 hours after her bedtime.
Wait, was this an hour long?
It was. You talked for an hour. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
You didn't even drink all your coffee. What the hell?
I know
That's crazy. This will be up on the YouTube channel, which is Alan Williams Studio. It will be under the stories. If you missed the first part, I'm sure no one's going to want to watch the stories for an hour, but I'll throw it up there. And then it will also, I'm going to put it on our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Alan Williams. ALLEN, since you guys all, I guess you're under I Just Draw. So
on Instagram.
You can find us there. He doesn't like to draw ships.
Ships?
Ships. He hates boats.
You know what? And almost every time I've ever said something like that, I've had a reason to have to draw it 2 weeks later.
I know. Well, you don't like drawing landscapes, and look, you did fucking great with that.
Yeah, thanks.
Oops, pardon me.
That's
you did
right.
really great. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up, and we will see you later. See us here, or the Facebook is also Alan Williams Art.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, YouTube, Patreon.
And you can find me generally if you just Google I Just Draw or Alan Williams. It'll take you almost directly to any of our stuff.
All right. Thank you, guys. Talk to you later, or please message us with any questions, or you can always ask the questions on YouTube or Patreon, too.
Thanks for showing up.
Thank you.